This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. The Soviet Union's Armenian crisis has flared up again, and this time Mikhail Gorbachev may be ready to take drastic steps to end it. Soviet authorities today imposed emergency measures in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh. That's where a new wave of strikes, rioting, and arson was building this week. CBS News Moscow correspondent Barry Peterson reports.
Hundreds of thousands of Armenians have taken to the streets of the capital city Yerevan for days. Tonight, the Soviet government struck back, banning demonstrations and imposing a curfew in the disputed Christian Armenian region of Nagorno-Karabakh. The region is surrounded by a mostly Muslim republic where there were reports of gunfire, houses and cars set afire. Foreign Minister Shevardnadze, visiting in Denmark, said today the Soviet government will not rule out emergency action, a clear sign that troops may soon be on the way. Authorities have used troops to quell the protest before. Mikhail Gorbachev and the Soviet leadership recently rejected Armenia's demand to annex the nearby region. They hoped that would be the end of it. They were wrong. Gorbachev's policy of glasnost or openness means there's more opportunity for these nationalistic movements to emerge. For Gorbachev, the price of more freedom is more turmoil. Just last week, the KGB held a news conference in the Ukraine to display money and written material smuggled to an underground nationalist movement. In Estonia, an alternative political party has been allowed that includes non-communist, an attempt to give long-simmering nationalism in that country a safety valve that Moscow can still control. But the situation in Armenia is perhaps the most explosive. And tonight, under the watchful eye of the KGB, a handful of Armenians gathered in a Moscow cemetery, angry and defiant. If the government does not give in, said one man, the situation will get worse. And behind him, a woman shouted, there will be war. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
In this hemisphere, 3 days after a military coup, Haiti appears to be slipping deeper into anarchy. Juan Vasquez is on the scene.
This is Haiti's version of a political action committee, looting the home of a former member of the outlawed secret police today, stripping it down to the bare walls while soldiers stand by and do nothing. And this is Haiti's version of people's justice, killing a loyalist of the old government and setting the corpse on fire in a public place. About a dozen victims of mob rule have been pulled out of their destroyed homes and killed this way in the most recent outbreak of fury. It's the lower-ranking soldiers who are in control of the government for the moment. In an interview published today, members of the Presidential Guard say they made General Prosper Avril president and they will make the important decisions. The confusion in military ranks was obvious today when a quarrel broke out at Army headquarters. An armored car threatened to attack the compound, but it eventually went away without firing a shot. Meanwhile, soldiers of the elite Leopards Battalion mutinied against their commanding officer and replaced him. He was said to be an enemy of the people. Other units have done the same. And while the soldiers jockey for control, mobs run through the streets trying to find alleged terrorists of the old regime. For them, public enemy number one is former Mayor Frank Romaine, who once managed to buy his freedom from vigilantes when the Duvalier government was overthrown 2.5 years ago. Today, he's in hiding. When former President Baby Doc Duvalier was overthrown, many of his cronies stayed behind. Now the people of Haiti feel they have a second chance to get rid of them all and finish the job. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Port-au-Prince.
Burmese troops tightened their grip on Rangoon today, but fierce street fighting was reportedly still going on in Mandalay, Burma's second largest city. Government radio said 170 people have been killed since the military coup last weekend, but Western diplomats say the real toll may be closer to 1,000. The White House today blasted Speaker of the House Jim Wright for his criticism of CIA actions in Nicaragua. Yesterday, Speaker Wright said CIA agents had admitted stirring up anti-government demonstrations in Nicaragua, trying to provoke the government there into overreacting with a violent crackdown. Today, President Reagan and his aides suggested that Wright was revealing secret information given by the CIA to Congress in order to take sides with the Sandinistas. Wright denied it. He said his charge was based on public knowledge. Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, Bruce Morton and Bob Schieffer will be here with reports on campaigns designed to control the image and message of the day. And Bob Fogg on why Japanese buyers wish they were shopping in America.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful six-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
Up to $1,000 cash back from Subaru means a great deal on a great car.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
How come your coffee is darker than mine?
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. Yours is the decaffeinated brand you've been drinking for years.
Mine's lighter looking.
See these dark, sparkling crystals made from Folgers mountain-grown coffee.
Smells really rich. Alice, looks and aroma are one thing, but how does it taste?
Have a sip.
Mountain grown. Alice, you're right, as usual.
Now I know why I married you. You're so sensible.
Decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. So dark and rich. Shouldn't you switch?
Post makes the only bran flakes with zip-pack freshness to keep their high-fiber, best taste fresh longer. I zip when I should have do that.
Post natural bran flakes with zip-pack freshness.
Zippity-yay.
George Bush and Michael Dukakis prepped in private with their advisors today for their first debate Sunday. Dukakis did appear briefly. He used a hospital setting to announce that he is for government-guaranteed prenatal and infant care. This comes as both the Bush and Dukakis campaigns are going to great lengths to try to control the pictures and content of day-to-day press coverage. We have two reports tonight on Campaign 88 and the message of the day. Bob Schieffer's in Washington covering the Bush campaign. First Tier's chief political correspondent Bruce Morton, who is covering the Dukakis campaign. Bruce?
Dan, candidates have always tried to make the press, print and broadcast say it their way. But this time they're trying harder than ever, taking special aim at what you see on the network's evening newscasts.
Governor will be here. There'll be the instructor and the trainee.
Sometimes it's just staging, what are called visuals. This is a show at the Los Angeles Police Academy meant to reinforce an anti-drug speech that day. Sometimes it's cosmetic. Candidate Dukakis set off for Yellowstone National Park and the firefighters in a red sweater. By the time he got there, someone had decided an AIDS suede jacket looked better. Trying for good pictures isn't new. Look at Robert Kennedy in 1968. And sometimes, even in sophisticated 1988, the visuals fail. Reporters hooted when Dukakis drove up in a tank. The hot idea this year, though it probably started with Richard Nixon, is to get the message out. One simple theme for the day. Don't give them anything but that message. Here's Dukakis getting a swell reception from the pro-defense American Legion. Message, I'm tough on defense. But at a news conference later on, Dukakis drifted away from the message, seeming to shift his position on SDI, Star Wars. Reporters, print and broadcast pounced on that.
It is a major change in emphasis to portray this as a lack of opposition.
Dukakis seemed to say his own priorities had shifted over Star Wars, the Strategic Defense Initiative.
Moral, give them the message, nothing else. At Sam Rayburn's old school in East Texas a few days later, Dukakis hit hard at George Bush's attacks on Dukakis' patriotism. Dukakis compared it to red baiting in the 1930s and 1950s, and he was careful not to make any other news. Result?
And just as they did in the 1930s and the 1950s, the American people and the people of Texas can smell the garbage.
Fácilmente. So more and more, Dukakis talks about only what he wants to talk about. The candidate, who once had almost daily news conferences, now says he has to make sure his issues are the message, not respond to something else.
Yeah, I'll be responding to that sometime next week.
And he has held no news conferences this week and has none scheduled.
With the Bush campaign, it's the discipline that's so extraordinary. Once the campaign managers decide the theme for the day, nothing's allowed to stand in the way. No detail is considered too insignificant. An example. When Bush went to Disneyland on Labor Day, strategists advised him to keep his distance from Mickey Mouse. The potential for well-looking Goofy was just too great. Bush obeyed, and the campaign got the festive holiday picture it wanted.
You got that?
There is a reason for everything. These pictures were all planned to show Bush the regular guy, not afraid to get his hands dirty. Nothing is left to chance. When demonstrators showed up here, the campaign distributed hundreds of air horns to drown them out. Bush himself sticks to a carefully crafted script, which always includes one zinger for Dukakis.
I am not a card-carrying member of the ACLU. I am for the people. He is for gun control, and I am not. He thinks our best days are over and that doom and gloom is around the corner.
When he flew to Texas to watch a Pershing missile being destroyed, the theme of the day was peace through strength. So Bush showed off parts of the destroyed missile all day. When the theme is economics, he keeps it simple.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
During Hispanic Heritage Week, he toured a plant with a large Hispanic workforce that cans Mexican food. Why? To stress that Reagan economic programs have been good for minorities. When reporters raised subjects that weren't in the script, Bush simply ignored them and ate.
3 members of your staff have advised governments allegedly linked to drug kingpins.
In Los Angeles 2 days later, Bush was making the tortillas himself, but still sticking to the script.
We were looking forward to answering some questions. Not here, though.
But if answers are sometimes hard to get, pictures are easy. Bush's people are the best in the business at setting up camera angles. It may seem frivolous, even silly at times, but setting up pictures that drive home a message has become the #1 priority of the modern-day campaign. The problem, of course, is while it is often entertaining, it is seldom enlightening. Dan?
Bob, all this raises, of course, questions for journalists.
Yes, it does. Most journalists, I think, would agree that we have an obligation to report what a candidate says, to tell our viewers what his message is. But when part of the message is picking up fish to show he's a regular guy, does fairness dictate that we always show that too? My answer is no. I can't see it has anything to do with being president.
And Bruce, with all of this emphasis on the image, what happens to the issues? What happens to substance?
Well, a candidate obviously can stress those issues he wants to. We heard Mr. Bush talk about gun control. We've heard Dukakis this past week talk about health care. He can ignore forever those he doesn't want to talk about, and reporters can do very little about it. When was the last time you heard the deficit in one of these little sound bites?
Can't remember it. Thanks. What was supposed to be a golden photo opportunity for J. Danforth Dan Quayle in Arizona today turned into a surprise snipe at the conduct of the Bush campaign. The criticism came from none other than former Republican U.S. Senator from Arizona, Barry Goldwater.
But I want you to go back and tell George Bush to start talking about the issues. Okay?
I wish Barry would just say what's on his mind.
President Reagan tried to hit on Michael Dukakis today over the pledge. George Bush has repeatedly attacked Dukakis for vetoing state legislation that would have required public school teachers to lead students in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Reagan was asked whether public school teachers should be required to lead the pledge.
Well, that's what they're there for. Their job is to teach something.
For his part, Dukakis has said he doesn't oppose the classroom pledge, but that he was advised by a state Supreme Court that requiring the pledge was unconstitutional.
Lost weight at Diet Center. If you want to lose weight, call the weight loss professionals at Diet Center.
As soon as you get out there, call Mike Butler at the Century 21 office.
Well, he already called me, Dad.
Check the utility bills. I will, Dad. You know, the right mortgage.
Dad, isn't this guy Butler a friend of yours?
Yeah, sure.
If he's half the guy you are, I bet I can trust him.
Come with us.
Take care of yourself.
Put your trust in number one.
Write your mother.
Century 21.
When your coffee is rich and satisfying, like your time alone, and it's naturally decaffeinated, it's necessarily Nescafe.
Great coffee blends to taste away. That's necessarily Nescafe.
Last month, I wrenched my back. I didn't take aspirin or Tylenol. My doctor gave me Advil. It worked on the pain, and Advil was gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
In Shreveport, Louisiana tonight, city officials and black leaders are warning against possible renewed violence. The warnings follow hours of rioting, looting, and burning last night. Authorities blame drugs and racial tension. Christine Negroni reports.
Like a scene from the 60s, hundreds of blacks took to the streets. Armed and hurling bricks and stones, they had control of a 10-block area of Shreveport for 5 hours overnight. The riot was sparked when a liquor store owner provided refuge to 2 white women who'd allegedly shot and killed a black man during a drug deal. Whites became targets.
Got hit with rocks and bricks and all kinds of things. Yes, I'm scared to death.
The rioters set 2 buildings on fire and shot at the firefighters. Police decided to stand back and let the buildings and the riot burn out on their own.
We didn't feel that any sort of our presence would contribute to anything other than escalating situations.
Oh, they got all my merchandise out of that. I sat there and watched them. They couldn't even stop them from doing that.
This morning, as shopkeepers surveyed the damage, community leaders called for a study of racial tensions.
Because we're sitting on a powder keg in this community, and nobody wants to come to grips with it.
Shreveport is still a racist city. It's a divided city.
Last month, 4 whites were arrested for shooting and killing a black man. They claimed self-defense, but black leaders pointed out the victim was not armed. Racial tension had been high, and it came out again today as Shreveport police were accused of discrimination.
We take after everybody equally all the time. That's a lie. Well, we try, and I really believe that we're doing it.
In Shreveport, they know that the chief's words will be put to the test as the department responds to another muggy night with only the usual show of force in this riot-torn neighborhood. Christine Negroni, CBS News, Shreveport.
There's been a lot of talk lately about the U.S.-Soviet space race to visit Mars. Tonight's the night Mars is making its own nearest visit to Earth since 1971. And people living all over the northern hemisphere can possibly get the closest look at the red planet in more than a century. Tonight's close encounter will put Mars and Earth a mere 36.5 million miles apart. Mars will be the brightest glow in the sky, except for the moon.
Original Yoplait is the yogurt with nothing on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
I have lumpy yogurt with fruit jammed on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
Yoplait smooth and creamy with fruit right up to the top.
Nothing but natural. Nothing but low fat. Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Original Yoplait.
Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Oh, yeah.
My folks just left.
Thank you. When a man loves a woman.
The new Subaru Justy gets you anywhere you want to go, less expensively than any other four-wheel drive car.
Mr. Potts, you're home.
Of course. What brings you out on a night like this, James?
Up to $1,000 cash back from Subaru means a great deal on a great car.
A sink isn't the only place Woolite cleans safely and gently. Use the delicate cycle, and a lot of your hand washing won't need your hands.
If you could taste tradition, this is what it would taste like. Smucker's Low Sugar Spreads. Half the sugar, half the calories, all the goodness.
The Olympic Games underway in South Korea offer athletes from around the world the chance to see how they match up against each other. And so it is with the battle of international economies. In the search for what we're calling the real gold, Americans hear a good deal about the Japanese economic superstate. But in America's comeback, consumers in the two nations hear a different story when it comes to paying for food and shelter. Bob Fall reports.
More and more Japanese are starting to ask, if we're so rich, why aren't we living better?
They have come to realize that the consumers have been exploited.
Why, they ask, if our salaries are equal to the Americans, are our prices 30% higher, our work week 30% longer, our homes 40% smaller?
They are claiming that there must be something wrong with the system in Japan.
The system here is so out of kilter, the emperor's estate in Tokyo is worth more than all the land in Arizona and Illinois combined. And some things made here actually end up costing less in America than they do in Japan. Once, American tourists bought cameras in Tokyo. Now,
I bought one Japanese camera in New York.
Prices here are astronomical, largely because Japan is saddled with one of the world's most inefficient, overmanned distribution systems. From the factory to the shelf, the average product sold here passes through twice as many hands as it does in the U.S. It is a system which guarantees thousands of jobs, a system which also guarantees higher prices.
Editorials are clamoring that the system be streamlined, that prices be lowered. Even the government's official planning agency has criticized the government for letting Japan become a rich nation with poor people.
Government should try to change the situation, economic situation.
One reason the government is not doing more is its special interests like Masami Endo and his wife Yuko are digging in. Their association of small shopkeepers has enough power to block the spread of large supermarkets and lower prices. I know most of my customers by name, he says. At supermarkets, that's impossible. Supermarkets won't drive us out. And Japan's farmers are powerful enough to force the government to protect them by restricting imports from America, even though that drives prices up. Beef costs 40% more than in the States. Result? The Japanese have to spend almost twice as much on food as Americans do.
Everybody realizes that the situation is ridiculous in this country.
Especially Japan's youth. The first generation to know only affluence, they are often unwilling to make the sacrifices their parents did.
Young people think that, what do you get working so hard? Even they save, they can't even buy a house here.
So why bother?
Why bother?
They are saving less and complaining more about working 6 days a week with only 1 week of vacation every year.
We have the first generation of Japanese who actually believe that life is basically to be enjoyed.
So as Japan enjoys itself more and learns from its travels that people working less are living better, the country which regularly outperforms Uncle Sam finds it still has a lot to learn from the U.S. Bob Fall, CBS News, Tokyo.
In Washington, the Labor Department today said higher food costs, rents, and gasoline prices combined to push consumer prices up 0.4% in August. For the first 8 months of the year, inflation is running at an annual rate of 4.6%, slightly higher than last year.
You've got to be kidding. I mean, a cereal today is supposed to be fun, wild shapes, jelly beans. You got anything like that? These are just flakes. I like this. That's funny, huh? Unless you're going for a retro thing, right? Bringing back all the good stuff. Yeah, it's simple, basic. I like that.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Get out of here. Cornflakes?
Taste them again for the first time.
For the first time ever, Red Lobster presents 30 shrimp done 4 incredible ways for just $8.95.
You've never had so many shrimp, so many ways. Shrimp that
our golden fry. Scampi you just must try. Shrimp baked with lots of spice and lemon peppers, oh so nice. You never had so many shrimp at such a price.
The deluxe shrimp sampler, just $8.95. Kids shrimp dinner, $1.95 at Red Lobster.
We know how you love seafood.
Mom sure make life easier. Mine did. Like another mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. Phillips Mom helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Even has this convenient dosage cup. Nobody treats you better than Mom.
Do it yourself. Do it for yourself. Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
Wood finish for beautiful color like no other. And Minwax polyurethane for fast drying protection that lasts.
Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
U.S. athletes won 3 more medals at the Seoul Olympics today. After 5 days, the Soviet Union leads overall 14 medals. The U.S., East Germany, China, and Bulgaria are next with 8 each. Strictly speaking, the Olympics are a competition among athletes, not between nations. But as correspondent Bob Simon reports tonight, the Games run as much on national pride as individual spirit.
On the Olympic track, politics is never far behind. For small countries like Nepal, it's a chance to run with the big boys.
Yesterday we win the bronze medal, first time in the history of Nepal in taekwondo. So our people are very much happy, I think so.
It provides even more recognition and respectability than membership in the United Nations. The Olympic rings might be the most enduring trademark of the 20th century. Recognition? When Anthony Nesty won the gold yesterday, he put South America's smallest nation, Suriname, on the map. Politics? The island of Guam has had trouble walking towards independence from its status as an American territory. Coming to the Olympics for the first time is a sprint in that direction.
Guam feels that they are a nation. Guam is very much their own identity.
Flag waving seems okay at the Olympics. Turkey had good reason yesterday. Naim Suleimanoglu broke 6 world records and provided a rallying cry for the Turkish minority in Bulgaria, the country he defected from 2 years ago. Other countries, Iraq for example, have very few fans here, so Korean corporations provide entire cheering sections complete with children and flags and enthusiasm. Good sportsmanship, good politics. The Cold War is thawing out all over. This time, the Russians seem more eager to defeat their allies, especially the East Germans, than to beat their old rivals, the Americans.
It perhaps isn't so much as a sort of patriotic coup to defeat the United States. That's part of the old ideology that we want to get away from.
There's less American rhetoric, too. The kind that attributed Soviet bloc victories to state sponsorship and steroids.
I don't think it's fair to single out any one country anymore, because I think the problem is everywhere.
And so are solutions. If the Seoul Games celebrate the rebirth of East Asia as a world power, the Europeans, the French and the Spanish, will show what they can do when they host the Olympics in 1992. Bob Simon, CBS News, Seoul.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
While the Today Show is off the air for Olympic coverage, CBS invites you to watch Kathleen Sullivan and Harry Smith all this week on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.